first an obvious question, first half to second half, differences, especially offensively for you guys?
We had zero enthusiasm in the first half. Just kind of was, what I wanted to tell them was, I grew up playing on the playground, playing in the parks and all that kind of stuff. If I'd have came out and played with that lack of enthusiasm, they'd never pick me again. I mean, we were bad. We were just no enthusiasm. And Jared did a great job. Jared did a great job of knowing a lot of the things that we do and taking some things away, but we just didn't have any enthusiasm.
Is that what the press was for?
Yeah. Yeah. When you got to cover that much ground, you have to run. You have to play with a little more energy. I didn't want to do it. I mean, I really didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it to Jared, but we still got to win.
Sean, the second half, he didn't even put up many shots the first half, so I guess you don't want him punting shots and taking bad shots, but does he need to be more aggressive, or did that work out just fine for you?
No, I think it worked out fine. I think he and Taz, they're good teammates. They're really good teammates, and they're, I think they saw an opportunity where they could get some other guys involved, and in the second half, after we had a brief conversation at halftime, they figured out that for us, and I'm not in favor of it. I think it's a bad thing, but the net, we play a 1 or 2 point game, it kills us in the net. So, and I hate that we have to look at things like that, but it is what it is.
Coach Calhoun was talking about with the non-conference schedule you played a variety of teams that do different things defensively, and how that would sort of help you get prepared for the Big 12 season. Your thoughts on that? Is this team ready to hit that?
Well, I don't know that that's – I mean, yeah, that's right. But I think to be totally honest, Darius wanted to play. If Darius wants to play, we ought to play Darius. AK wanted to play, and I think that's kind of my obligation to try to help those guys if they think it helps them. And Jared wanted to play, so those are three guys that I've got the utmost respect for, and three guys that are very close to me. And I think in Jared's case, it's very close to this program and what he's done, and not just here but in Fairmont. And in this state, so we ought to bring those guys back. But that was more what it was than anything else.
Coach, you've been looking for a third scorer. You've wanted more out of Jaylen, but Malik gave you double-digit points. What did you think of his offensive play today?
He's made plays for us all along. It's just he does it in spurts rather. So you probably don't notice it as much until you end up looking at the final stats. He's really good he's really good ball screen guy, and he kind of got us going at the beginning of the second half. We just, for whatever reason, when the ball got stuck, and it's hard when the ball gets stuck.
Good time for this break coming up. Players can get away for a little bit.
Yeah, I would think so. I think particularly the transfer guys are excited to get back home. We got obviously we got guys, this is home, so they're going to be here.
You've mentioned your thoughts about the Hall of Fame and all that. Jerry brought it up tonight that you know, you're not going to be here forever, and that it's time to do something about that, and also brought up a statue of you outside, which you know, I'm sure it would move faster than you do now, but
It'd be a close race, Bob.
when you hear something like that coming from someone that's worked for you, someone that's been close to you, what does that mean? What kind of meaning does it have?
Well, obviously, I'm appreciative of those guys. Those guys were great to me. I mean, it's much like, you know, the crew that I've got now. They're very good, very astute basketball guys. You know, in terms of the other things, Bob, you know, my dad told me some things that actually have stuck with me. There's not a lot sticks with me, but you know, he said, "Why worry about things you can't control?" And I can't control any of that, so why would I spend time worrying about it? I mean, I guess guys do, but maybe after you're retired, you got nothing else to do. You sit around and think about things like that. But hey, it is what it is. You know, it's a nice thing. I mean, it's a nice thing. I mean, they probably should do a statue of me, but it probably ought to be about 3 inches tall. You know, then it wouldn't get in Jerry and Rod's way. You know.
Coach, you get kids back after Christmas and get to work again. Trip to Texas, TCU back-to-back. Was this going to be a big learning experience for this bunch? Will this be a telling trip for what you've got to work with?
Well, I would guess that a lot of those guys, when we're warming up at one end and Texas is warming up at the other end, they're going to say, "Oh my God, they're big, they're really big, and there's a lot of them." So we just, you know, we got to do what we do. We got to do what we do. We got out rebounded by 12 today, man. I mean, can you imagine what that'd be at Texas? We've got to do a better job. We got to do a better job, and you know, it just seems like the older guys, you know, JB and Taz and those guys are more in tune with what I'm telling them, where those other guys have been wherever they've been, and I don't think there's the how do I say this? I don't think there's the urgency to continue to be one of the premier programs in the country. You know, a lot of them are at places where, okay, oh well, you know, we are what we are, and we're not good enough to be there, and so let's don't worry about it. We're here, you know. Well, I mean, with the legacy that we have here, you know, I don't want Jerry calling me saying, "What the hell's going on there?" You know. So, you know, we have an obligation, I think, to some of the greatest alumni in the world, to a state that loves basketball. This is for what anybody wants to say, think, or do. It is a basketball state. We all know that. I went over to do a Shriners thing when we were down in Charleston, and oh man, name escapes me now. How can I forget his name? Was at East Tennessee State, then he went to NC State, and he's a Charleston guy. And he was telling a story. No. The coach, not the player. But he was talking about, you know, how he thought that, it may end up that he ends up here, way back then. And you could just hear the disappointment. I mean, West Virginia people love West Virginia. West Virginia people love West Virginia. They're proud of the history of what's went on here, and we're to the point, and I hope I've helped this to the point where we want to play in advance in the NCAA tournament, man. We don't want to play in the NIT or all that stuff. I mean, we want to play and play against the best and beat the best. And anything less than that, I understand why people are disappointed. But they're not any more disappointed than I am. So.
Actually, one more on the Big 12. When did the league become so defensive? I mean, I don't think it's exactly like the old Big East days, but statistically, this is a good defensive league, not just one or two teams, but 1 through 10.
Well, probably when there were coaching changes. Chris is a defensive guy. When Bruce went to Kansas State, Bruce is a really good defensive guy. I think if you look at the changes in the leagues over the years, it brought in some really good defensive minds. And you know what, Justin? Let's face it, we're all in places where we're not going to get the 1 through 25 very often. So you've got to figure it out. So
it's a much different league now than when you first got in, right? Style-wise.
When I first got in it, I'm sitting there, and I've said this 100 times, but it's true. I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around the table, and 60% of the guys had coached in the Final Four. I mean, I sat around at the table, and there were about twice as many in the Big East, and they had just about the same deal, and I'm like, wow, Now then all of a sudden it's like 70% of the coaches coached in the Final Four. And many of multiple Final Fours. That means guys are coaching. They're coaching. They're recruiting. They've got a heck of a program. They've got a nationally elite program. So that's what makes it hard. It's not just really good players. And I've said this. I mean, we've had more number 1 picks, first pick in the draft, than any other league. And everybody would think, oh, no, that's not right. It's the ACC or it's the – no. It's the Big 12. And first-round picks and total draft picks for a league that's half the size of those other leagues. That's a hell of a league now. They've got twice as many chances to do what we do, those other leagues. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that any more than you guys knew that. You didn't know. Nobody ever. I mean, you're here in Morgantown. You're not thinking about the Big 12 at that time. Think about the Big East. So